Good evening. This is Alpha Shift Radio, the Alpha Shift podcast. I'm Dave Kruger, and I know it looks, for those of you watching on the video, like I am going solo tonight, but with me on the phone is my intrepid co-host, not content to take a night off, even though he had to travel out of town on business. Don Kowaleski, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, Don, I appreciate your commitment and your intrepidity with showing up to be here with us tonight, so thank you.
Well, thank you for allowing me to call in and do this a little bit different than we usually do.
I know, absolutely. So you are now technically the second call-in guest that we've had. And actually, we're going to have numbers 3 and 4 coming up in February, so we're all of a sudden going on with call-in guests. I had a nice phone call last night with Marilyn Moore, who is a relationship expert and an energy work expert. She's actually she's an expert with all of those, the I Ching technology that I've been talking to you about, Don, the clearing energy, and she's big on numerology. And so we were talking last night, and she's going to do a whole workup on me during the show. I gave her my birth date, my ex-wife, my ex-girlfriend's birth dates, my mother's birth date. So we're going to find out more about me than we ever wanted to know in a couple of weeks.
Oh my gosh, this is exciting.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that you might cry? Is there a chance you might cry in the process?
Yes.
I just feel like that really plays well.
Yes, there's a chance I might. Now, I'm very emotionally constipated like that. You know, I don't usually cry in front of people or girlfriends or audiences, so there are some obstacles, but it's possible. It's possible you might see me have some massive epiphanies. Maybe a breakdown is possible. I mean, I'll try. I'll try to loosen myself up and maybe watch some sad movies in the afternoon before we come in. But yeah, we'll see what we can do.
I don't say it as a bad thing either. I just say it like real raw emotion. It would be exciting for everybody.
Yeah, except me. I will be watching it in post and saying I'm deleting this entire episode, and you'll have to talk me out of it. So anyway, tonight I have just returned, as I was talking to Don a little bit to Don before we began recording. I've just returned from a week in Los Cabos, Mexico, masterminding with the Global Information Network, my global success club that has brought me so far in life. I was there for nearly a full week. I did some of their high-level training for a couple of days, which is really it's just unbelievable. And then I was in some of the leadership meetings, and we went into general session over the weekend for all the members, and it was just fantastic. It's just really a coming together of like minds who want to do more and be more in life. And as much as the information that is shared, it is the coming together, the spending time with people who are of like mind and like heart. You know, and really coming from the right place. It's tremendous. You come back a changed person. You know, my heart's in a different place. I had a lot of business concerns and personal concerns. I almost didn't want to go down to Los Cabos, Mexico. I was just like, man, I just really need to handle this and handle that. Got down there, and it was just like a massive cleansing of my whole energetic slate. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight. And I want to share some of this with our audience. I want to share some of the good vibe with our audience tonight. And so I want to talk about a couple of concepts. We're going to start with, I want to talk about the power of a mastermind. And I'm going to go into a couple different definitions of what a mastermind is. And I want the men who listen to this podcast to understand that this is a necessity in their lives. You know, our last batch of call-in questions and people who were writing in were asking about their own depression and how to improve their emotional states, and this directly relates to that. Then I want to go into what else? Oh my God, I'm losing my own. I want to go into the wall of fire, a concept that I will explain when we get there. That when you want to get something very badly, or you want to become something, oftentimes you have to walk through the proverbial wall of fire to get it. And it's very important to understand that. That's why sometimes achieving what you want or moving beyond a certain place in your life that's difficult, it's not always as easy as it seems. There's a good reason for that. And we're going to round the show out at the end. I'm going to talk about one of my favorite quotes from author G. Michael Hopf, who wrote The Razor's Edge, Call of the Wild, Those Who Remain. And that quote is, and I'll just drop it on you right now, we'll talk about it later. Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Weak men make bad times. Bad times make strong men. So we'll end up with that. So hopefully it'll tie up the theme of the show, why it's important to get the support you need with a mastermind. Know that you need to walk through a wall of fire sometimes to become who you want to become and get what you want, and understand the relationship of strong and weak men in good and bad times. So, Don, what do you think?
That sounds like a deep episode, but look at you. You're glowing. I can tell that you spent a week away in someplace sunshiny because you sound so much more positive than the rest of us you left behind in Michigan, where we have not seen sunshine in about 90 days. I don't remember the last time.
A dangerous level of like 90 days. Yeah.
Yeah, the vitamin D that hits your skin and the lessons you learn, the masterminds. Like you've got like it's coming across.
Cool.
I'm ready. Like lay it on me. Let
awesome.
Your sunshine and your light just get us all warm and fuzzy.
Okay, all right. Well, we will go into discussing the mastermind. This is important for a number of reasons. And before we really get into it, I want to relate it to why it's so important to our specific audience. So many times men in the world men out in the world working, supporting a family, going through their daily life. Men more often than not, more than ever, are isolated. They don't have anyone to talk to. They don't seek out anyone to talk to. They don't have a support. And at the same time, I think there's more stress on men than there has ever been. Male suicide is up. We've talked about that. We've talked about some of those statistics in past episodes. And it is, I'd say it's a severe crisis. And I would also say that I think many men who are looking to improve their sex lives, improve their marital lives, I think they're grasping for the one connection that really gave them meaning in some cases. And they think that somehow that's going to redeem them. And, a great relationship with a wife, with a girlfriend is a wonderful thing. But I don't want anyone to ever think that it's a necessity for you to be whole and to be happy. It is a wonderful addition to an already happy person. And one of the ways that you're going to be happy is to have a group of like-minded people around you. There's a couple different ways that we define a mastermind, and I'm going to go into that. Before I do, Don, do you have any comments?
So I guess that was my first question. Is like, tell me what you're describing as a mastermind. Because I'm sitting here, and I didn't go to Los Cabos, Mexico with you, but I'm thinking that, okay, if I don't know, something topical in the news is obviously Kobe Bryant. He was, if you think of a basketball mastermind, like if I was going to learn, how would I be better at basketball? How would I be the best among the 10 best that ever played the game? Well, he would be considered a basketball master, a mastermind in the sport. So if you were to follow his lead, do what he does, which certainly you can't be 6'9" if you're not, but right. You could learn the way that he practiced. The commitment to always getting better at the dribble left-handed, better at the shooting, fading away, better at, as he got older, shooting from further away, changing his game. He was a master. And there are a handful of masters in the realm of basketball who have ever lived. So are you talking about, in whatever path that you want to improve, finding a mastermind in that, and then like basically learning what that mastermind does?
Not exactly. Okay. So what I mean, and Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, let's have a moment for Kobe. That was pretty sad. I mean, Kobe is a master of his craft. A mastermind, as I'm going to define it, is a great mentor defined it for me. It's a group of minds coming together, a group of people coming together and forming. What happens is, if you get, let's say, 12 guys, all of these separate minds come together, and it actually creates one big mind that is separate from all of the 12, almost like an energetic field. It may sound a little woo-woo, but it's a real concept, and we can all upload and download to that field. So the way it might play out in real life, I had a mentor who he and his best buddies would go on a fishing trip up to Canada in the summer once every year. And they did business together. They were all very successful in business, but they would get up there and they would get in the canoe with their Indian guide and do their fishing, and they wouldn't talk business, at least not until like the last day or something like that. And what happened is, just by being together and playing and having fun, all of their lives improved. Certain business problems would be solved just by getting together and having fun and being in a place of celebration. That is one explanation of a mastermind. A lot of people think that, when we say mastermind, it means, okay, get like a meetup group together and we're going to talk about like online marketing strategies. That's not necessarily a mastermind. That's
and not what I was talking about, like a mentor.
Yeah, that's mentorship is a little different. We'll touch on mentorship too. Yes, a mastermind is one mind that is created from several minds coming together. Don and I, for those of you in the audience who we've mentioned it in the past, Don and I next week are going to be going to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, because a good friend of ours, an old fraternity brother, he's got a team called Team Jetpack, and they carry boom boxes, like DJ boom boxes on their back, and it's like this mobile party. And they are looking to break the Guinness Book of World Records. And Dave, our friend, has taken the initiative to kind of turn this into a Delta Upsilon, kind of reunion. And fraternity brother reunion. And what is going to happen is all of us, all pretty much respectable grown adults in our own lives, are going to converge on Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and be on this beach at this party with this bar. And we are going to come together and we are going to create, as we once did, this mastermind, kind of this larger than all of us mind. And we will all start going batshit crazy and probably drinking and acting like we once did when we were young and callow and crazy and didn't have to have the weight of the world on our shoulders. And it'll be a great time. That is an example of a mastermind coming together, and it's going to happen next week. I just had it last week with the Global Information Network. I have it next week with Delta Upsilon. And these associations, they seem like it's fun. It's a good time. It's good to be able to, blow off steam and do that. It's more than blowing off steam. It's essential to your life to have masterminds, to have groups that support you. I mean, for old ladies, it could be a knitting circle. For, for nerds, it could be a bunch of guys who meet once a week or whatever and talk about computers and just support each other, but just be together. It's not just about like a business meeting. And so, and that is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And there is another, I don't even know if I should drop it on this episode, but there's another definition of a mastermind, which is also very powerful and something that you can use every day to create what you want. Let me explain that. I'm already I'm getting dry, so I'm taking a drink of water, Don.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, that's what's going on.
I thought you were getting choked up.
Yeah, we're about to go. I know. We're going to get me crying on an episode at some point in the future. I promise I will find a way to cry.
I don't know why that's my goal all of a sudden.
You know what? My last girlfriend wanted me to cry. You and her, man. She was like, I just want to see you cry. I'm like, why? Because she cried all the time. I think she felt it was not equitable. Napoleon Hill, in his book, Think and Grow Rich, another one of those books that I mention frequently, he defines the mastermind as any group of people, living, dead, or otherwise, that you can call together and they can support you in creating what you want and you can support them. And you can sit in your mind and you can call in a mastermind of anyone you want. I could call in a mastermind of Bruce Lee, Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Donald Trump, or you could be people living, dead, people you don't know. You call in the energy. John Lennon, Don Kovaleski. I'd call Don in, and if I can't call him on the phone if he's busy. And
I like this mastermind group.
And so you can sit there, you can get quiet. You need to get quiet, almost like you're meditating, and you can call them in, and it's almost spooky. It's like they start taking on a life of their own because what you're doing is you're calling in the essence, the energy of these individuals. And they can help you solve your dilemma or find an answer that you might be looking for or achieve any objective, any reason why you might be calling this mastermind together. And you have to have a spirit, and Napoleon Hill says this, you have to have a spirit of also wanting to assist them. It's not all just about me. Everyone in a mastermind wants to benefit something from it. And you wonder if someone's not living anymore and they're dead, what could they possibly want? Well, what does a spiritual being want? They want love, they want acceptance, they want, positive, they want energy from you, vibes, good vibes. And who knows what they're working on in the afterlife. I could call Napoleon Hill himself. He died in 1970. I'd like to call him into my mastermind. And when you read that book and get into the practice of this and get your mind quiet, it's where real miracles start to happen. Because you'll start to they'll give you ideas, or you'll close your mastermind meeting, get up and go throughout your day, and all of a sudden, they're still with you. Something pops in your head, some solution to a problem, something you hadn't thought of, some new angle, to help you really get what you want. So there are so that's one way a mastermind can happen. The other way is, in-person, meetings, like with Delta Upsilon, where we're going to be with them next week, or with, the Global Information Network, all these people who are so into self-improvement and becoming better people. I just feel so good when I'm with them, and there's so much benefit from every meeting. That's why it's so important, Don, to really be careful of your associations. That your mom always says, if you hang out with those guys, you're going to end up just like them. And that's true. So be careful who those people are,
Yeah. And I think about what you're talking about, like you just came back and you obviously had a mastermind session because you were with great people, and you fed off the energy of each other. And you're talking about going down and seeing a bunch of old fraternity brothers. And it just reminds me of people who sometimes they think about their glory days. Like it never was as good as when I was in high school, or man, I was never as creative, and I never laughed so hard as I did when I was with my fraternity brothers in college. And maybe was it because of our youth, or was it because we were still in a position in our lives where we did get together in groups and we did enjoy other perspectives, and we're learning. And as we get older, we tend to isolate ourselves.
Don, I think that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what it is. And most people, yes, they tend to isolate themselves. And so because they're no longer associating with the people they used to associate with, they don't have that available. And so, of course, they look back to their glory days. Let me tell you something. When we get together with those guys, it's like not a day has passed. I'm having as much fun as I ever did.
Yep.
Granted, the last time we all came together in force, it was for a funeral. It was a somber occasion. But, being together with them was fantastic. That part of it was it felt great. It felt as good as it ever did. This time it's just going to be a party.
Yeah. And it like I say, it reminds you of when you had that energy on a much more consistent basis. And for you and I, we lived in a house of 28 guys, and then there were another 30 guys that lived out of the house, but that would always come over. And we had a pool table and a basketball hoop and a big giant deck with a grill, and guys would sit out there back when people smoked cigarettes, and it would just be communal.
Yes.
And it was great for the soul. You don't know, why was that so attractive? What did I love about that? And I like this mastermind because it can be recreated, or it can be ongoing, and you should seek ways to do it now, to have that mastermind moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Don. It's one of the things this is one of my primary things I advise guys to do now is, of course, if you're interested in the Global Information Network, that's one of the number one things I recommend to people. But even if you're at the local level, start with Meetup. If you have no one around and you don't have old friends available, you can pull together. Start with meetup.com. Find local groups that get together. Get yourself out there. You want good friends, you got to be a good friend first. So you can start from nothing, and start to build. And, I always contend that people who need to go online to find, people to date just don't have an interesting enough life. Remember, you think about how ridiculous online dating would seem back when we were in college. It's like, what I mean? Why would you bother? You just hook up with a chick at the next party, it's or what, if you
open your mouth, say hello, talk to someone, and then repeat until someone talks back to you.
Exactly. And I think that the rise of online dating and Tinder is because we're so isolated. We're spending more time on our phones than we do talking to people. And so when we're hungering for connection with people, we go to our phones. It's like this bizarre, paradox. And I've never actually done online dating, but how awkward would it be? You meet someone online or whatever, and then you sit down at a coffee shop across from them. I mean, that's got to be the most awkward damn thing in the world. I can't even imagine.
And then it separates. I mean, it's got to separate people right away, because if whatever side shows up and realizes, oh, this other person is not a conversationalist. They're obviously not comfortable in public settings. It just feels like someone's going to be disappointed, because they're looking for that eyes meet across a crowded room moment where everyone's laughing, and then you get that nerve, that moment to walk over and approach and say, hello, my name is, where are you from? I've never seen you before. I come here a lot. And it's just that regular conversation where you can figure out in that first 60 seconds if, oh, this person I really enjoy talking to this person.
Yeah.
They get me.
Yeah, and then if it doesn't vibe, you just say, "Hey, it was a pleasure meeting you," and you move on. But boy, you get two people together. They're like, maybe you're like vibing online. Maybe you read some really good things to text women, and so she's into you. But then she meets you, and she's not really feeling it. And then she excuses herself to go to the bathroom and never comes back. It's like an hour later. It's like, oh man, she climbed out the windows. Come on, man. So yeah. Definitely. I really think that, the number one thing is we got to stop being isolated. We've got to get back into communities. We've got to get back into feeling vital, and the way we felt in college. It's not just college. It was because we were living in community. We had guys who were all kind of going in the same direction. They were getting a college education. They were moving forward in their lives. We were having a great time doing it. That's a very, very powerful thing.
Yep. Think about, I certainly there are a lot, but think about veterans, guys who come back from the war or come back from, duty, and they've been overseas for 4, 8, 12 years, and they have a tough time adjusting. The whole time, I think sometimes they're in it. They can't wait to get out of it and just be back home. But what do they miss when they get home? It's that giant group of the mastermind, like you're describing it. That's a huge absence suddenly from their lives.
Yeah, because they get home, maybe they're back with their wife and their kids, and they should be happy, and that should be everything to them. And of course, the wife and the kids are the most important thing, but they're not supported by that mastermind. It's like there's something missing. It's like they're left bereft of something, because you can't get everything from your wife and family. You're there to, as a man, you're there to provide them with a lot of support, but where do you get all the support? You get it from them too, but
or worse. These are high school kids. They go off, and so they leave where it's mom and dad, maybe brothers and sisters, and they just got out of high school and they've got team. Then they're off to boot camp, and they've got, I don't know what it's called, a platoon, and they're there. And then if they do, serve someplace, again, group, they come back, and everything that was there, their brothers and sisters have maybe grown up, got married, have wives, families of their own. They've all formed new tribes.
Yeah.
And it's again, the isolation must be just soul crushing.
Yes. Let me tell you, Don, there have been times in my life when I felt completely isolated, and that was the worst. My last breakup I went through about a year ago. She ended up leaving town. We broke up. She took off and went to California, and there I was in our apartment that we had together. And the lease had 6 months to go. I couldn't just up and move out. And I was trying to sublet it. I ended up being stuck in that space for 6 months until the lease was up. And I looked around at my life, and I had grown kind of distant from everyone. I wasn't in touch with all of you guys as well as I could have been. I wasn't in touch with my gin people. I was kind of so focused on just my life and working and trying to make this relationship work that I'd kind of just left off with all of my other associations. And I would just go home at night and, be sitting there having dinner by myself. And I'm like, this is as bad as it will ever get. And it was the isolation. And I will never forget that as long as I live. I'm grateful to have experienced it and have the contrast so that I understand how important associations are, and I can evangelize to other people. Make sure that you've got good people around you, and you've got masterminds, and you've got groups around you, because it is so critically important. It is association with other human beings is a major human need.
Yep. And don't think you should be able to or have to figure it out on your own. I mean, that would be anybody listening who might, the ones who email in and write you and ask you questions. I guess that's the first lesson. It's not a solo project.
No.
Ask for help. And, we'll do our best once a week on this podcast. Dave offers lots of resources that if you need a master, or what do you say, the Global Information Network,
yes.
If you need that, if you just Toastmasters is another group. I mean, they raise their hands and they get together to meet up and learn to speak in public.
Yeah,
and
Toastmasters is
and tell
great.
Stories.
Yeah, Toastmasters is fantastic, Don.
Yeah, I did Toastmasters. I did like the 10 basic speeches that you do, and it was a great experience. I mean, I could have stayed with it, but I ended up moving on. I can be a little transient in life, but yeah, Toastmasters groups are fantastic.
Yeah, but the lesson is, don't think you have to figure it out alone. In fact, you'll do better if you ask for help, and ask more than one person for help. Ask a group for help, and then you'll have that mastermind experience.
Yeah, ask a group for help, and don't hesitate to sit cross-legged on the couch, call in that mental mastermind, ask them for help. Know that you have that too. That may sound a little woo-woo to some of you. But hey, man, Napoleon Hill in the self-help classic of all time, Think and Grow Rich, outlines exactly how to do it. So this isn't coming from me or my weird friends. This is one of the most respected books on creating what you want that has ever been published, and it's right in there. And a lot of the people who, even modern and in the past, a lot of the successful business people have admitted to do it. They do this. They do that. Thomas Edison used to have his quiet time where he would just sit and the way he described it is he'd sit in a room with a paper and a pencil, and he would just wait for the answers to come. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it.
Yeah, it's only woo-woo if, I don't know, if you're, I guess, shamed by somebody or you're embarrassed. But if these are things you're sitting alone and you're alone with your thoughts and you're inviting the minds of other people and you're, what would you say, channeling them to look at your situation with their set of eyes. Who cares if it's woo-woo? It's like the famous moment in Die Hard when the guy on the plane tells him, make fists with your toes. Mm-hmm. And Bruce Willis is like, what? And then later in the movie, completely, it was necessary to get him barefoot for later scenes. It was all movie magic, but it's just the idea that someone in passing told him, make fists with your toes on the carpet, and your anxiety from flying is going to go away. And then Bruce Willis is doing it, and it's woo-woo. And for a tough guy, New York cop, it's too woo-woo, but damn, he was smiling. It worked.
It worked. Damn right it did. Yeah. Sometimes the woo-woo stuff works. And that's a great example. That's my favorite Christmas movie of all time, by the way.
Is it a Christmas movie? Is it not? Oh,
and you know what? The debate rages every Christmas. I get into fights with people on Facebook every Christmas, because there's people, that is not a Christmas movie. Hey, it takes place at Christmas. It's exactly how I would want to spend my Christmas with my estranged wife running around. I worked in that building when I lived in LA. That was my first job, because that actually is One Fox Plaza. And so that building is owned by 20th Century Fox. And so the first time I was interning for a producer, he had an office up there, and his office was the floor below where Die Hard takes place. Because that was actually Ronald Reagan's office at the time. And so we would go up there on the elevators and look around and run out before the receptionist yelled at us. But it was really cool. Every time the lobby was exactly the same. Every time the elevator would go ding, I was reliving that movie in my head five times a day. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's so true. Fists with your toes. That could be our code word for woo woo stuff works. We'll say fists with your toes.
All right.
Fist with your toes. I got another interesting thing happened, and I suppose it's okay for me to mention this, but when you are hanging out with people, moving in a positive direction together, especially like an actual physical real mastermind like Gin or groups like that, funny things happen. Your dreams come true. A very handsome young couple from Germany got engaged on this trip. And I was in Germany 3 months ago and spent time with both of these people individually. Had no idea they had any involvement together. And saw them in Cabos. And I'm like, wow, Hagen and Nicole seem to be inseparable. This is interesting. They're like, they go together everywhere and do everything. And on like the last night or second to last night, they got engaged. And I saw that there was a text thread with all the German people. I was, up late drinking with, as I do. And they showed me a picture like, hey, look, Hagen and Nicole are engaged. I'm like, I knew it. And that's the sort of thing that can happen when you run with, birds of a feather flock together. And when you're hanging with positive, great people. Let me tell you something. Some of the women in this group are just really amazing. They're beautiful and they are switched on and they are good people. They, they're really smart. They're emotionally intelligent. And so it ain't a bad, being in groups like that ain't a bad place to meet potential dating partners. I'm just saying.
Well, that's an added benefit. Why not?
Yeah, and in any kind of group like that. That's what I mean about people who have to go online to find dating partners don't have an interesting enough life. You should be able to find a lot of great women in your social circle, whatever that social circle may be, wherever you may draw from. Maybe you work in a really dynamic, positive industry, and if you can hang out with people from work or people in your industry, you might have a great mastermind there. Maybe you have a special interest, like dancing or kite flying, or I'm really struggling to find examples of activities that people do, line dancing, whatever it is.
Cooking.
Yes.
Take a cooking class. If you've always wanted to take a cooking class, get in a class. Guarantee there will be members of both genders there.
Yes.
And they'll come from all walks of life and they'll all interesting backgrounds, but for whatever reason, they've decided they want to learn to cook different meals and different creams, and imagine that you have that as a common first, something first in common, and then you build from there.
Yes, perfect. I mean, forget delete Tinder off your phone and go find a cooking class. Now you've got something interesting you can do together, and you have a useful skill that you can do for each other. She can cook for you. You can cook for her. You can.
I can tell you at my local library, and if you have a good local library, there's a club. It's a memoir writing club, and it just kind of caught my attention. And I'm not looking to date or really meet anyone, but I wanted to learn about writing a memoir. And what a fascinating, diverse group of people, young, old, black, white, everything. And so again, it's just if you have an interest, find a group that is in your interest and you'll meet people.
Yes.
And it's not an online app. It's real life, real people, rubbing shoulders, talking, got a shower.
Yeah, you got to have a shower. You got to comb your hair. You can't just be doing that on the computer in your underwear. Yeah, no, that's absolutely correct. And it's a piece of advice I think that needs to be said over and over in our increasingly separate society, our increasingly addicted to technology society. This is kind of another thing I did not put this in the show notes or to talk about in the show, but I'm going to just mention a little bit, our addiction to technology. It is a serious problem. It is something that isolates us from other people and saps our creativity and our productivity. So I am looking very carefully at limiting my use of Facebook and my phone, and only to, important communication throughout the day directly with other people. And I'm really trying to start, I will go on social media to post things I need to post for the Alpha Shift, but this scrolling through other people's feeds and all that has got to stop. I've found it's quite the distraction.
Yeah, I mean, my philosophy on social media is if you're using it to be social, to communicate, to put news out into the world, be it here's a family milestone, here's a personal milestone, here's we just dropped a new podcast, then you're using social media. That's the word, social. You're using it like it's supposed to be used. Yeah. But if you're sitting hunched over at your kitchen table or your counter and you're scrolling, well, that's not social. That's like going to a mastermind meetup or going to bowling night and then just standing on the side, not talking to anyone and just watching.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive. It doesn't make any sense. That's not how you would go to a dance or to a bar night or whatever social gathering. You would never go and just stand and watch. So if you're on social media and you're not actually socializing, you're just wasting time.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, Don? I raise my hand. I've been guilty of that many times. And so I'm making a pledge to get a lot more productive. I'm reading this great book. I don't know if I mentioned it to you. It's called The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. And, oh man, I'm going to start implementing this, and it's going to be hard because I'm finally in a place where I'm sleeping more, and I like sleep till 7:30 in the morning. So it's going to be brutal to start getting myself up at 5 o'clock, and I'm not done with the book yet, but he's got this hour of power that you do from 5 to 6 a.m. to get you off to being productive, and then you do most of your productivity before noon in the day. Like anything you need to do for work, anything where your creative genius comes through, you get it done before noon because your decision-making ability and your focus dilutes throughout the day. The more decisions you make and the more you do by the latter part of the day, you're like all over the road. And so get all of your genius, and for you and I, we're writers, Don. We do a lot of creative work. We really need to get it done when our minds are the most focused and the world is the most quiet. So you get up in the morning, and he has like this 20-20-20. So for 20 minutes, you're doing hard exercise that makes yourself sweat right when you roll out of bed. You get up and you do hard exercise, jumping jacks, burpees, it can be a lot of different things. Then for 20 minutes, you are journaling or planning or plotting, and then you're doing something spiritual like meditating. I might be getting it wrong. I don't have it ready to implement yet. And then you go into your work. At 6 a.m. You start going into your work. Most of the world isn't up yet. You are now in a focused place because you moved your body and you got meditating. You are in this awake place, ready to move, ready to roll. And according to Robin Sharma, that's what some of the world's top producers and most successful people do. They're up early and they're focused.
Well, what's the old-timey phrase? Like, hey, let me sleep on it. Like, give me this idea. It's all great. And so what do you think? You know what? Let me sleep on it. And I wonder sometimes, certainly I've experienced it in my personal life. I've experienced it after I have loss. Sometimes when you're, grieving the passing of someone you love, you just find yourself staring at the ceiling, laying awake. But if you can get yourself to sleep and you can let your mind reset and refresh and all the benefits that come with that, most times when you wake up, if there is a problem that was just tormenting you the night before, you feel fresh. Like, oh, this is not so bad as I thought. And so that's an interesting concept because as a writer, yes, if I wake up at 5 and I get myself a cup of coffee, I feel like I could write for 4 straight hours and come up with ideas. And I have a second idea, a second tab open for, writing new, and I have funny observations. So I'm a member of this 5 a.m. club. I didn't even know I was.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear more about this book because I believe in the power of the early morning and the refreshed brain and how powerful it is.
Yeah, my goal is to have the book read, have my notes on it, and be ready to implement as soon as we get back from Fort Lauderdale. I'm not going to set myself up to lose because that's just going to be some batshit craziness. And the chapter I just read this morning, he talks about the implementation protocol, the new habit implementation protocol, and that it actually takes not 21 days or 20 days, it takes 66 days to permanently embed a new habit. The first 22 days are the destruction of your old neural pathways, tearing everything up. And the middle 22 days are like chaos and like you feel like you want to quit when you're being rewired. And the final 22 days are laying down the new patterns. And by the time you've done this for 66 days, it is now a habit. It no longer requires willpower, and you got it. So when we get back from Fort Lauderdale for 66 days, I'm going to be doing it as he lays it out, because I've got all of this wonderful wisdom, and I've got so much knowledge about thinking and everything I've learned from the Global Information Network and for all the books I've read. The missing piece for me has been a discipline of how to structure my day to maximize my brain power, to maximize my focus, and maximize my own genius. And so I will be implementing this, because once we get back, I don't have any travel to do for a few months. So I can, do this 66 days of implementation, and we will check in on me. You can call me out, and we'll make sure that I'm doing it, because I will be doing it every day, including weekends. I will be getting up at 5 a.m., and I will be doing this hour of power. And I intend to transform my level of productivity. I mean, I'm not exactly a slouch now, but I want to be like Zeus came down from Mount Olympus and recreated the freaking world.
I'm ready.
So yeah, I'm really ready to take it to a new level. So that's going to be the next stage. I think that's a perfect transition into the next thing I want to talk about, which is the concept of walking through a wall of fire.
Wall of
fire. Let me give you some examples before I go in. One of my big mentors, a guy by the name of Kevin Trudeau, he was the infomercial king in the 1990s, has gotten himself in trouble with the government multiple times. He's not an angel. He's gotten himself into trouble a little bit in the past, but he got into a big tiff with the FTC over saying that the weight loss protocol that he was promoting was easy. They didn't like that, fined him $37 million. He didn't pay it. He is now serving a jail term. And according to him, and he went in, and he's like, this is perfectly fine. This is my wall of fire. This is actually, believe it or not, what I wanted, because, of course, what he wants. He's also a teacher of success principles. He has built, millions up from nothing, from very humble beginnings, and intends to do something even bigger. And so, according to him, and he writes newsletters from they call it Camp Cupcake. It's an Air Force base in Alabama, so it's kind of like living in a condo and calling it prison. But he's putting out all of these new writings, and some of the stuff he's doing now is brilliant. And he'll be out shortly, and he'll be unstoppable. And it's just the best example I've seen of a great attitude under what a lot of people would consider negative circumstances. He's in there with like all the white collar guys, who have run afoul of the federal government, and he teaches seminars in there, and has picked up the nickname Guru Kev. He even has a website now, gurukev.com, because that's what he doesn't believe in gurus or that you should call someone your guru, but they nicknamed him that, so he picked up the moniker as kind of a joke. And he's the one who kind of coined for me the phrase wall of fire. And another mentor of mine, kind of picked up on that, and he's a chiropractor. They have a very big practice, and they have a health system that they market throughout the world called bioenergetic synchronization technique. And the father who developed the technique passed away, and it was very hard on the sons, who've now taken over. And he actually showed us a picture taken from one of their seminars, and there was an orb that showed up in one of this is for real, an orb that was the father kind of there overseeing him, and another one, it was him up on stage working on someone, talking to the audience about moving on without his father, and there was fire. It was like something that I swear he showed us the pictures, and he took that symbolically as that's his wall of fire, getting over his father's death and taking over the family legacy, and so. Anything you want is going to require some sort of a wall of fire. Maybe developing new habits, like doing Robin Sharma's 5 a.m. principle. That's a wall of fire for a lot of people because it's hard. But it will get you to a place. It'll get you to a place of being able to do so many magnificent things. Our friend Dave is keeping us appraised online of everything that he's going through to get this big event planned and done, and unexpected tax bills, and having to hire extra help, and up all night, just do it. And that's a wall of fire for Dave. I mean, he wants to break the Guinness World Record and throw the party of all time. That's his dream.
Oh, he's created multiple walls of fire to walk through.
Yeah.
You would think okay, I want a party on a beach to set a world record. So he started with that's a very basic, right? You just need a patch of land, a bunch of friends to come, and the Guinness record people, and you're going to be there. But no, he wanted to make sure that he got enough people and gave them an event. So he's had to create the pre-party on Friday,
Yes.
the event itself all day Saturday, and then the post-event party. And oh, by the way, do you know you can't have alcohol on Fort Lauderdale Beach unless you have the proper permits? So he created another wall of fire that he has to get the permits and get fencing, and it's truly remarkable. Like when we come back and report on this,
yes.
there are so many things that we're not even seeing, and if we sit and take notes next week, we could just count the walls of fire, and some people would just say impossible. You can't do it. You can't. Why even try? Because you can't do it. But he thinks you can. He will not hear that it can't be done.
He won't hear that it can't be done. And I love that. It's a great example of when you want something bad enough, you will walk through any wall of fire to make it happen. For Dave, this is that thing. It's important in your life. Find that thing that you will walk through that wall of fire for. It's got to be worth it. It's got to be something you really want. And I just think that's such a blessing to find something you want that bad and just make it happen. And this thing's going to be a home run. I hope he actually breaks the Guinness Book of World Records. That would be the cherry on top. That would be to actually pull it off. That would just be the ultimate. And I'm pulling for him. I think he will. Are we going to be able to participate in that? Are we going to be able to put some of that equipment on our back?
Yeah, I mean, if he has the 400 people he's having, I mean, is he going to have 400 speakers available to just keep adding and adding? I can't wait to see. If I get a speaker or a backpack, I will absolutely wear it. I want to blow my eardrums out with all the noise that is going to be made. But I'm very interested to see what the heck it all looks like in the end.
Well, to the audience, Don and I will do our best to take pictures and video. And maybe when we get back, we can do an episode around it and intersperse that in, as long as it makes sense and it's not like crazy debauchery because we were drinking and I was like on the beach filming myself or something. It's got to make sense. But I have a feeling this is going to be a reunion. This was going to be one for the ages, Don. This is going to be like this is the sequel. Like for when we all 20 years later we all grew up. This is going to be like that's the sequel to that.
Yep. And it could be the last possible opportunity because many wives are somehow have been fooled and are letting their husbands go unattended down to Fort Lauderdale with all their old college buddies, and some of those college buddies are not married, and there is just no supervision. And that's I personally, I don't live like that. I've had supervision for many, many years.
Yeah, you've been supervised since forever, yeah. And so you're going to be unsupervised. I think Weldon's coming. We're going to have a lot of guys unsupervised. It's going to be fun. Yep. Yeah, this is going to be crazy. So, I'm looking forward to it. I'm just about recovered from my gin trip, so I'll be ready to go once more onto the breach in Fort Lauderdale. Absolutely can't wait for that. That's all we'll touch on for today. But I want you to understand the importance of a mastermind because you have to walk through that wall of fire. So you need the mastermind to help you walk through that wall of fire. And the final thing I want to talk about tonight is kind of this saying that I mentioned at the beginning: strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Weak men make bad times. Bad times make strong men. That, by the way, if you didn't hear me before at the beginning, that is a quote from G. Michael Hopf, who is the famous author. He wrote The Razor's Edge, Call of the Wild, Those Who Remain. This is a pretty well-quoted quote these days in men's circles and in social commentary of the time. And that's one of the reasons that the alpha shift exists, is to understand that when you see maybe an overabundance of weak men, why we see that. We see it because, our parents, our World War II generation, we emerged from that conflict the strongest country in the world, with some of the greatest wealth and greatest opportunity that the world has ever seen. And there were the great times. There were the Ward and June Cleaver 1950s, and on into the 1960s, the wealth that was created, even though we had social upheaval and suddenly everyone realized that the government was lying to them and the hippies wanted to protest Vietnam. I mean, we still had, the highest median income, the most opportunity, and they were good times. Then we started tearing the family apart. We took a good situation, which was kind of empowering women who had perhaps been, marginalized in the past and took it too far, and tore men apart. And these good times have led to weak men, and weak men have led to some interesting times that we now live in, some things that could stand to be improved. And so these hard times that many are, acknowledging that we're in, I think are going to create stronger men. I don't see the end of Western civilization coming. I don't see the end of men. I see us being a part of this, and I see a general trend toward building stronger men again, because we needed some adversity to kick us in the butt. Does that sound true to you, Don?
I mean, if you think that you're in having a bad time, or this is a bad time, then take heart, because there is nowhere to go but up. And if you are strong, and if you do the right things, like the last line, bad times make strong men, you're going to come out on the other end stronger.
Yes, I think sometimes when things are going badly, we do lose heart. We think it'll never get better. We think, oh my God, what has the world come to? What has my life come to? Let me tell you something. And I had a mentor tell me this, when things are bad and nuclear bombs are going off, pop the champagne. It means something better is coming. Because most of the time, if you look at your own life or you look at world events, a lot of times, negative things and seeming disasters precede good times, precede positive change, precede sweeping change. And so when you see things getting really bad and people getting really antsy, it means we're gonna shove it in the other direction eventually. When it hurts bad enough, people will change. It's the old adage of the dog sleeping on the nail. I think the story goes, some old man is walking into a general store, and there's a little old lady sitting out there in a rocking chair, and her dog is sitting there, and the dog is kind of whining like, oh, oh. And the man says, why is the dog whining? And she says, he's laying on a nail. And the man says, why doesn't he get off the nail? And she says, it doesn't hurt enough yet. And so it's a matter of when that nail hurts enough, you will get up off your ass and you will do something about it. And so, yeah, and I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing that socially. I think we're seeing that in politics. I think I see a brighter future. I see some resolution, to some of the upheaval that we've seen. The trick, Don, in our personal lives, I mean, we can't necessarily control the events of society and culture, but in our personal life, the thing I'm going to be cautious of, because I'm on an upward swing. I was in a negative place for a while, which is one of the reasons I started the Alpha Shift. It was kind of my personal therapy. I've mentioned that before. And, helping these guys is helping me. There's going to come a point, and you're going to see it, where I'm going to be flying high and things are going to be really good. And that's where we have to really watch me. That's where I can't get too comfortable. I can't get too complacent. And I've got to, just like Rocky Balboa in Rocky 3, when Apollo Creed tells him, you got to find it, Rocky. You got to find the eye of the tiger, the edge.
Yep.
That's what you got to do. You're like Rocky in Rocky 3, where you lost the edge and you lose the title. And so you can't do that.
Always improving, always learning. It's like, I think of a literal wall of fire. Like, what would make you? Yeah. I can put, if there's a wall of fire, but you're not in any danger, you're not going through that. But now let's say that wall of fire is a burning house, and the only way to live is if you just go burst. Take all your bravery. It's going to be hot. You don't know what's on the other side, but you can't stay where you are and be burned alive. You have to burst through that wall of fire to safety, to a better life, to living.
Yeah, to a better life.
So that's a literal version. But where does that wall of fire come from? It comes from trapped in a cave, a wall of fire, but you have to get out.
Yes, and your own fears. A lot of times that wall of fire is your own fears about something that you think is bigger than yourself. And you have to walk through it. And so There will be more in the future on the Wall of Fire. Don, I got to wrap us up and get out of here. So do you have any final comments before I close it up?
No, just welcome back, and I'm looking forward to next week in Florida.
Thank you so much. Everybody, we had a great time talking to you tonight, and we will talk in the future more about masterminds, walls of fire, and strong and weak men, and good times and bad. Don and I are going to be out of town, living the glory days next week, and we will be back the week after that with relationship expert Marilyn Moore, and we are going to kind of really dive into numerology and using all of these tools to understand love and lives and ourselves a lot better. Don, have a great night, and I will see you soon. I'm going to say good night, good night, good night from the Alpha Shift.
Good night.
Good night.